They called her the Wolfless Runt. For years, Aria Sullivan scrubbed floors and took the beatings, hiding a secret that would bring the world's most powerful alphas to their knees. In the Coldwater Pack, weakness is a death sentence, and Alpha Damon was ready to sign her execution order. But he made one fatal mistake. He demanded a public trial. He wanted to shame her, to break her spirit in front of everyone. He didn't know that by forcing her to shift, he wasn't exposing a runt. He was waking up a legend. When the bones cracked and the fur grew, it wasn't a weak Omega that stood before them. It was the White Luna. And this is the story of how the king finally bowed to his queen. The music in the grand hall of the Coldwater Pack house was deafening, a heavy bass that vibrated against the crystal chandeliers. It was the Alpha's birthday, and the elite of the werewolf world had gathered to celebrate Damon Hale, one of the most feared Alphas on the East Coast. Aria Sullivan tightened her grip on the silver tray, her knuckles turning white. She wasn't a guest. She wasn't even considered a pack member anymore, not really. She was the help. At 22 years old, Aria was an anomaly, a wolf who had never shifted. In a society that valued strength above all else, she was a stain on the pack's reputation. Her parents had been respected warriors, but after they died in a rogue ambush when she was 10, and her wolf failed to manifest by 18, Aria had been demoted to the rank of Omega. "Watch it, Mutt!" a sharp voice hissed. Aria flinched, nearly dropping the champagne flutes. Standing before her was Jessica Monroe. Jessica was stunning, with cascading blonde hair and a dress that cost more than Aria would earn in a lifetime. She was also Alpha Damon's current favorite, and she made sure everyone knew it. "I'm sorry, Jessica," Aria murmured, keeping her eyes on the floor. Eye contact was forbidden for Omegas. "That's future Luna to you," Jessica sneered, reaching out and deliberately tipping the tray. Glass shattered. Expensive champagne soaked into the plush velvet carpet and splattered onto Jessica's red stilettos. The music didn't stop, but the conversation in the immediate vicinity died instantly. "You clumsy idiot!" Jessica shrieked, her voice pitched perfectly to draw attention. "You ruined my shoes! Damon!" Aria dropped to her knees, her hands shaking as she began picking up the jagged shards of glass. A sharp piece sliced her palm, but she barely registered the sting. She knew what was coming. The air in the room grew heavy, the temperature dropping as a powerful aura washed over the crowd. Alpha Damon Hale parted the sea of guests. He was 6'4" of pure muscle, with dark hair and eyes like stormy seas. He radiated power, the kind that made weaker wolves want to bare their throats in submission. He looked at the mess, then at Jessica, and finally his cold gaze landed on Aria, who was huddled on the floor. "What happened?" Damon asked, his voice a low rumble. "She attacked me," Jessica lied smoothly, clutching Damon's arm. "I caught her trying to steal from your private study, Damon. When I confronted her, she threw the tray at me." Aria's head snapped up, forgetting the rules. "No, that's a lie. I was serving drinks. She bumped into me." "Silence!" Damon roared. The Alpha command slammed into Aria's chest like a physical blow, stealing the air from her lungs. She choked, clutching her throat. Damon looked at her with a mixture of disappointment and disgust. Years ago, they had been childhood friends. But power changes people, and the lack of power destroys them. "Stealing?" Damon asked, looking at Jessica. "Are you sure?" "Check her pockets," Jessica said with a cruel smirk. Damon signaled to his beta, a burly man named Mason. Mason stepped forward, roughly hauling Aria to her feet. He plunged his hand into the pocket of her tattered apron. Aria froze. She knew her pockets were empty. She had nothing. Mason pulled his hand out. In his palm sat a heavy, gold signet ring. Damon's family ring. A collective gasp went through the room. "I didn't take that," Aria whispered, tears welling in her eyes. "Please, Damon, you know me. I wouldn't." Damon took the ring from Mason, examining it. He looked at Aria, and for a second she thought she saw hesitation. But then he looked at the crowd, hundreds of wolves watching to see if their alpha was soft on the weak. "Theft from an alpha is treason," Damon stated coldly, "and treason is punishable by death or exile." "She's a danger, Damon," Jessica added, whispering poison in his ear. "If she'd steal this, she'd sell pack secrets to rogues. She has no wolf. She has no loyalty." Aria looked around the room. Faces she had known her whole life turned away. No one would speak for the wolfless. "I demand a trial," Aria said, her voice shaking but audible. The room went silent. Even Jessica looked surprised. Omegas didn't demand rights. Damon stepped closer, looming over her. "A trial? You have no wolf to defend yourself. A trial in this pack is combat or ordeal. You will die." "Then I die," Aria said, a strange calm settling over her. "But I won't let you brand me a thief without a fight. I invoke the ancient law of the silver truth." The ancient law. It was rarely used because it was brutal. It required the accused to be subjected to the Moonstone, a sacred relic that forced the wolf spirit to the surface to judge the soul. For a wolfless human, the energy of the stone usually stopped their heart. Damon's jaw tightened. "Fine. Lock her in the iron cells. The trial will be at dawn." As Mason dragged her away, Aria caught one last look at Jessica. The blonde woman was smiling, confident that Aria was walking to her grave. But Aria felt a strange heat in her chest, a burning sensation she had felt dormant for years, finally beginning to stir. The iron cells were damp, cold, and smelled of rust and despair. Located deep beneath the pack house, they were reserved for rogues and traitors. Aria sat on the stone bench, hugging her knees to her chest. Her hand was still bleeding from the glass, the red drops staining her grey uniform. She wasn't afraid of dying. In a way, she had been dying slowly for 4 years, ever since her 18th birthday came and went without a shift. The ridicule, the isolation, the hard labor, it had hollowed her out. But the accusation of theft, that ignited a spark of rage she didn't know she possessed. Her father was the former Delta. Honor was the only inheritance she had left. The heavy steel door creaked open. Aria didn't look up, expecting Mason or a guard with stale bread. "You have a death wish, kid?" Aria looked up. It was Elder Thomas Grier. He was the oldest wolf in the Coldwater Pack, a man who had served under Damon's father. He walked with a cane, his face a map of scars and wrinkles. "I didn't steal it, Thomas," Aria said quietly. "I know you didn't," the old man sighed, sitting on the bench opposite her. "Jessica Monroe is a viper, but Damon is blind. He sees what he wants to see. He sees a strong mate who matches his power, not the poison underneath." "Why are you here?" "To tell you to run," Thomas said, leaning forward. "I can leave the door unlocked. The shift change is in 10 minutes. You can make it to the border." Aria shook her head. "If I run, I admit guilt. I'll be a rogue, hunted for the rest of my life." "If you stay, the Moonstone will kill you," Thomas argued, his voice rising. "Aria, be realistic. You are wolfless. The stone amplifies the wolf spirit. If there is nothing there, the energy has nowhere to go. It will cook you from the inside out." "There is something there," Aria whispered, touching her chest. Thomas looked at her sadly. "We all hoped so, child. When you were born, the oracle predicted greatness, but biology is cruel." "I feel heat," Aria insisted. ever since I touched the ring, ever since Damon used his alpha voice on me. It's not fear. It's like something is scratching at the door." Thomas stood up, shaking his head. "That is the delusion of the condemned. I cannot stop the trial. Damon has already summoned the regional council to witness it. He wants to make an example of you. He thinks it shows strength to purge the weak." "Then let him watch," Aria said, her eyes hardening. Thomas paused at the door. "If you survive the stone, Aria, things will change. But the chances are 1 in a million. I'll take those odds." After Thomas left, Aria lay back against the cold wall. She closed her eyes and focused on the heat in her chest. It was pulsing now, in time with her heartbeat. Thump, thump, burn, thump, thump, burn. She thought about Damon, the boy who used to race her through the woods before he presented as a wolf, the boy who promised to protect her. Now, he was the man sending her to the slaughter. "I hate you," she whispered into the darkness. "Do you?" The voice wasn't hers. It echoed inside her skull, ancient and feminine. It sounded like the wind through the pines and the crash of a waterfall. Aria sat bolt upright. "Who's there?" The cell was empty. "Do you hate him, little one? Or do you hate that he does not see us?" "Us?" Aria trembled. "Sleep now," the voice commanded, soothing and terrifying all at once. "You will need your strength for the dawn. We have a show to put on." Aria's eyelids grew heavy, a supernatural weight pulling her down. As she drifted into unconsciousness, she realized the pain in her hand had stopped. The cut from the glass was knitting itself back together, leaving not a scar, but a faint, shimmering line of silver skin. Dawn broke over the Coldwater territory, painting the sky in hues of violent orange and bruised purple. The trial circle was an ancient stone amphitheater located in a clearing in the densest part of the forest. Usually, trials were private affairs, but Damon had made this public. Hundreds of pack members stood on the rising stone steps. Whispers fluttered through the crowd like agitated birds. "She's actually going through with it. She's going to die. Alpha Damon is ruthless." In the center of the circle stood a stone pedestal. Resting on it was the Moonstone, a jagged, fist-sized crystal that glowed with a faint, ethereal blue light even in the daylight. Aria was led into the circle by 2 guards. She was dressed in a simple white shift dress they had given her, barefoot, her hair loose and tangled. She looked small, fragile. Damon stood on a raised platform, flanked by Jessica and Elder Thomas. Jessica wore a smirk of triumph, dressed in black leather as if she were ready for a funeral. Damon looked tired, his eyes fixed on Aria. "Aria Sullivan," Damon's voice boomed, amplified by the acoustics of the amphitheater. "You stand accused of theft and high treason against the Alpha. You have invoked the right of the Silver Truth. Do you understand the consequences?" Aria stepped forward. The grass was wet with dew under her feet. She scanned the crowd. She saw pity. She saw scorn. She saw hunger for violence. "I understand," Aria said clearly. "If you are innocent," Damon recited the ritual words, "your wolf will manifest and protect you from the stone's judgment. If you are guilty, or if you are soulless, the stone will consume you." "Get on with it!" Jessica shouted from the sidelines. "Stop wasting our time." Damon shot Jessica a warning glare, but he nodded to the guards. "Proceed." Aria walked toward the pedestal. The closer she got, the louder the buzzing in her ears became. The voice from the night before returned. "They watch with judgmental eyes. Show them what true power looks like." Aria reached the stone. She hesitated for a fraction of a second. She looked at Damon one last time. He wasn't looking at her. He was looking at his hands, his jaw clenched. Was he regretting it? It didn't matter. Aria placed both hands on the Moonstone. At first, nothing happened. The crowd murmured. Jessica let out a harsh laugh. See? Nothing. She's empty. Then a low hum began. It started in the ground, vibrating up through the soles of everyone's feet. The Moonstone flared. The soft blue light turned blindingly bright, shifting into a violent, swirling vortex of white energy. Aria threw her head back and screamed. It wasn't a scream of fear. It was a scream of agony as her bones began to break. "Stop it!" Elder Thomas yelled, stepping forward. "It's killing her! Damon, stop it!" Damon took a step, his instinct to protect kicking in, but the energy barrier around the circle slammed him back. "I can't!" Aria's body was lifted off the ground, suspended in the column of white light. Her back arched at an unnatural angle. The sound of snapping bones echoed like gunshots. Crack, crack, crack. But she didn't die. The light intensified, blinding everyone in the amphitheater. A shockwave blasted outward, knocking the front row of spectators off their feet. The pressure was immense, crushing, ancient. "What is that?" Jessica shrieked, cowering behind Damon. "That's not a normal shift." Inside the light, Aria's silhouette began to change. It grew. It elongated. The small, fragile human form was being rewritten. The light shattered with the sound of a thunderclap. Silence fell over the clearing. Standing where Aria had been was not a human corpse. It was a wolf. But not just any wolf. It was massive, easily the size of an alpha, perhaps larger. Its fur was pure, blinding white, like fresh snow under moonlight. Its eyes were not the yellow or amber of a normal wolf, nor the red of an alpha. They were violet, glowing, swirling violet. The white wolf shook its massive head, a mane of silver-white fur fluffing up. It looked directly at Damon. A collective gasp sucked the air out of the clearing. "By the goddess!" Elder Thomas fell to his knees, his cane clattering to the stone. "The Luna Suprema!" The legend was real. The white wolf wasn't just a myth told to pups. It was the rarest of all shifts, a wolf born once every 1,000 years, carrying the direct blessing of the moon goddess. A wolf that commanded not just a pack, but all wolves. The white wolf, Aria, let out a growl that wasn't just a sound. It was a physical force. It commanded submission. One by one, the wolves in the crowd dropped to their knees, baring their necks. It wasn't a choice. It was biology. Even the warriors, the hardened killers, bowed. Damon stood frozen on the platform. His wolf was clawing at him, screaming at him to submit to the queen. He fought it, his knees shaking. Jessica, however, was trembling with rage. "Kill it! Damon, kill the beast! It's a trick!" The white wolf turned its violet gaze toward Jessica. It didn't attack. It simply looked. And under that gaze, the truth of Jessica's soul was laid bare. "Bo," the voice echoed in everyone's mind. Not spoken, but felt. Damon's resistance shattered. He fell to one knee, his head bowed, sweat dripping from his forehead. The entire pack was on the ground. The Wolfless Runt was gone. The queen had arrived. The silence in the amphitheater was heavier than the stone slabs that formed its foundation. The white wolf, the entity that a legend called the Luna Suprema, stood motionless atop the dais. Her fur rippled in the wind like a field of snow, and her violet eyes scanned the prostrate crowd. Damon Hale, the alpha who had never bowed to anyone since his father's passing, remained on one knee. His heart was hammering against his ribs, a frantic drumbeat of terror and awe. But beneath the fear, there was something else, a pull, a magnetic, undeniable force that tugged at his very soul. Mate. The realization hit him with the force of a freight train. The scent was no longer masked by the dormant nature of her wolf. Now that the spirit had broken free, the scent of Aria flooded the clearing. Vanilla, rain, and the ozone smell of a coming storm. He had sentenced his own mate to execution. The white wolf let out a soft chuff, a sound of dismissal. The blinding light returned, softer this time, wrapping around the massive beast. As the light faded, the wolf shrank, bones rearranging with sickening wet snaps, until Aria Sullivan lay curled on the cold stone of the pedestal. She was unconscious, her naked form pale and covered in a fine sheen of sweat. Aria, Damon broke, his frozen state. He scrambled up the stone steps, ripping off his heavy suit jacket as he ran. "Don't touch her." The command came from Elder Thomas, who was moving remarkably fast for a man with a cane. But Damon ignored him. He reached the pedestal and wrapped his jacket around Aria's trembling body, lifting her into his arms. The moment skin touched skin, a shockwave of static electricity zipped through the clearing. Damon gasped. It was the mating spark, but amplified 1,000 times. It didn't just tingle, it burned. Aria's eyes fluttered open. The violet glow was gone, replaced by her natural hazel eyes, but they looked older, deeper. She looked up at Damon, her expression unreadable. "You," she rasped, her voice wrecked from the scream. "I've got you," Damon whispered, his voice thick with emotion. "I'm so sorry, Aria. I didn't know." Aria stared at him for a long heartbeat. Then, with a strength she shouldn't have possessed, she shoved him. "Get off me." Damon stumbled back, shocked. "Aria, you're weak. You need—" "I said get away," she croaked. She pulled the jacket tighter around herself, struggling to sit up. She looked down at the pack, her tormentors, her abusers, now watching her with wide, terrified eyes. Mason, the beta, rushed forward. "Alpha, the healers are—" "Stay back," Aria's voice cracked, but it carried the echo of the white wolf. Mason froze mid-step, his wolf forcing him to obey. Jessica Munro stood at the edge of the platform, her face a mask of twisted fury. She wasn't bowing. She was shaking. "This is a trick! It's a hologram! Illusion magic! She's a witch, Damon! Kill her!" Damon turned to Jessica, and for the first time in years, the fog of lust and manipulation cleared. He looked at the woman he had allowed to dictate his pack's culture. He saw the vein popping in her forehead, the ugliness of her jealousy. "Another word," Damon growled, his eyes flashing red, "and I will rip your throat out myself." Jessica recoiled as if slapped. Aria managed to stand, using the pedestal for support. She looked at Damon. "You bowed," she whispered, a dry, humorless smile touching her lips. "The great Alpha Damon. You bowed to the runt." "You are the White Luna," Damon said, his head lowering slightly in instinctive deference. "You are the highest-ranking wolf on the continent. Of course I bowed." "Is that the only reason?" Aria asked, her eyes searching his. Damon swallowed hard. "No. You're my mate." Aria closed her eyes, a tear leaking out. "What a cruel joke," she murmured. Then her eyes snapped open, cold as ice. "I reject the title, and I reject your help. Elder Thomas?" The old man stepped forward, bowing low. "My queen." "Get me a car," she ordered. "Take me away from this place. Take me to the neutral lands." "You can't leave," Damon panicked, stepping forward. "Aria, the bond, it will kill us if we separate now, right after the shift." "Then let it kill us," Aria said flatly. "I would rather die than spend another night under your roof." Damon flinched. The words were a knife to his chest, sharper than any claw. He deserved it. He knew he deserved it. But the instinct to keep her close was overwhelming. "I cannot let you leave," Damon said, his voice dropping to a command. As Alpha, you are nothing to me," Aria interrupted. The violet light flared in her eyes again, for a split second. "Try to stop me, Damon. See what happens." The air pressure dropped. The sky darkened as storm clouds gathered unnaturally fast overhead. Thunder rumbled, shaking the ground. The white wolf was connected to the elements, and she was angry. Damon held up his hands in surrender. Okay. No neutral lands. It's not safe. But take my guest house at the edge of the estate. It's private. No one will disturb you. Please just stay within the territory boundaries so the bond doesn't drive us insane." Aria wavered. She could feel the sickness already, the nausea that came from rejecting a fresh bond. She nodded once, sharply. "Fine. But you do not enter unless invited. And she," Aria pointed a shaking finger at Jessica, "is to be locked up until I decide what to do with her." "Done," Damon said without hesitation. "Guards, seize Jessica Monroe." "What?" Jessica shrieked as two warriors grabbed her arms. "Damon, you can't do this. I'm your future Luna." "You were never my Luna," Damon said coldly. "Take her to the iron cells. Let her see how the runt lived." As Jessica was dragged away screaming obscenities, Aria's legs finally gave out. She collapsed, but before she hit the ground, Damon caught her. This time, she didn't have the strength to push him away. She passed out in his arms, her head resting against the chest of the man who had almost destroyed her. Aria woke up to the smell of lavender and expensive linen. She wasn't in the guest house. She was in the Alpha's private wing, in the master suite. The glass room. It was a massive bedroom with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the forest and the lake. She sat up, clutching the silk sheets. Her body ached, a deep, bone-weary soreness from the restructuring of her anatomy. But she felt full. The emptiness that had plagued her for years was gone, replaced by a humming energy in her veins. The door clicked open. Damon entered, carrying a tray of food. He looked terrible. He clearly hadn't slept. His eyes were bloodshot, and he had a day's worth of stubble. "I told you to take me to the guest house," Aria said, her voice raspy. "You needed medical attention," Damon said softly, setting the tray on the nightstand. "The shift, it shattered 3 ribs and your collarbone. My healers fixed you, but they needed the equipment here." Aria looked at the food. Steak, rare, and a bowl of fruit. Her stomach growled ferociously. The wolf needed fuel. She didn't argue. She grabbed the steak with her bare hands and tore into it. Damon watched her, a mixture of fascination and guilt on his face. He pulled a chair up, sitting a respectful distance away. "The council is here," he said after she had eaten. Aria wiped her mouth with the back of her hand. "The regional council and the high council," Damon corrected. "Word travels fast. A white Luna hasn't been born in 600 years. The Alpha King, Elias Thorne, is on his way from Europe. He'll be here by tomorrow evening." Aria laughed bitterly. "Yesterday I was scrubbing toilets. Today the king is coming to visit. You people are so fickle." "Aria," Damon leaned forward, his elbows on his knees. "I need you to listen to me. I know I can't apologize enough. I know that. But Jessica, she poisoned my mind, and not just with words." Aria raised an eyebrow. "Excuse me?" "We found vials in her room," Damon explained grimly. "Wolfsbane mixed with influence potions. She's been dosing my tea for months. It made me aggressive, paranoid, and suggestible. It doesn't excuse what I did to you, but you think a potion made you treat me like garbage for 4 years, Aria challenged. "Jessica has only been here for 6 months, Damon." What about before that? What about when I turned 18 and didn't shift? You stopped talking to me. You let the pack demote me. You watched them spit on me. Damon looked down at his hands. I was disappointed. I thought we were meant to be mates. I felt the pull even back then. When you didn't shift, I thought the moon goddess had played a trick on me. I was hurt, so I lashed out. I was a child. You were an alpha, Aria corrected. An alpha protects the weak. You persecuted them. I know, he whispered, and I will spend the rest of my life trying to fix it. If you let me. I don't know if I can, Aria said honestly. The bond, it's screaming at me to forgive you, to crawl into your lap and let you scent me. It's physiological torture, but my head, my heart, they remember every insult. We can break the bond, Damon said, his voice breaking. Aria froze. Rejection was one thing. Severing a bond was another. It was a ritual that caused immense physical pain and left both wolves hollowed out forever. Is that what you want? She asked quietly. No. Damon looked at her, his eyes burning with intensity. I want you. I want to be the mate you deserve. But I won't force you. If you want to sever it, I will accept the pain. I will set you free. Aria looked out the window. The sun was setting, casting long shadows over the territory she used to fear. We have bigger problems right now, she said, dodging the question. You said the king is coming. What does that mean for me? It means you are the most valuable asset in the werewolf world, Damon said seriously. Every alpha, every rogue king, every vampire lord, they will all want you. Your blood alone can cure lycanthropy madness. Your howl can force an army to submit. You are a living weapon. Aria shivered. I don't want to be a weapon. Then you need to be a queen, Damon said, standing up. And you need to get ready, because before the king arrives, we have a trial to finish. Jessica's. Aria swung her legs out of bed. Good. I have some questions for her. One more thing. Damon hesitated at the door. We checked the security footage from the party, the theft. And? The camera angle was blocked, Damon said, his jaw tightening, by a shadow. But we found the ring. It wasn't in your pocket, Aria. It was a sleight of hand. Mason slowed the footage down, frame by frame. Jessica slipped it into your apron, literally 2 seconds before she accused you. I told you, Aria said. I know. Damon opened the door. Mason is down in the cells now. He's expressing his displeasure with Jessica. Don't kill her, Aria said quickly. Not yet. Damon looked back, a dark promise in his eyes. That depends on what she tells us. The interrogation room was stark white, smelling of bleach and copper. Jessica was strapped to a metal chair. Her designer dress was torn, her blonde hair matted with sweat and blood. Her face was bruised, one eye swollen shut. Aria stood behind the one-way glass, watching. Damon stood beside her, his arms crossed. She's tough, Mason's voice came over the intercom. She admits to planting the ring, but she won't say who gave her the influence potions. She claims she made them, but she's not a witch. Let me go in, Aria said. No, Damon protested. It's dangerous. She's chained to a chair, and I'm a mythical beast, Aria deadpanned. Open the door. Damon signaled Mason. The heavy steel door buzzed and clicked open. Aria walked in. She wore a simple black tracksuit they had found for her. She didn't look like a Luna in a dress. She looked like an executioner. Jessica looked up. When she saw Aria, she spat blood on the floor. Here comes the freak. Aria pulled a chair over and sat directly in front of Jessica, knee to knee. Hello, Jessica. Enjoying your victory lap? Jessica sneered. Damon will get bored of you. He likes fire, not a charity case. Who gave you the potions? Aria asked calmly. I don't know what you're talking about. Aria leaned forward. Her eyes didn't change color, but the air in the room grew heavy. The lights flickered. I am the White Luna. I can smell a lie on your tongue, like rotting meat. You didn't brew those potions. They smell like sulfur and old magic. Dark magic. Jessica's heartbeat spiked on the monitor. Go to hell. If you tell me, Aria said, I will advocate for exile instead of execution. You can live. Jessica hesitated. The fear of death was a powerful motivator. You promise? I promise I will ask for it. Damon usually listens to me now. Jessica licked her cracked lips. It was a man. I never saw his face. He wore a hood. He met me in the woods near the border 3 months ago. He gave me the vials. He said if I gave them to Damon, I would be Luna within the year. What did he want in return? Aria asked. Information, Jessica whispered. He wanted to know about the Pack's defenses, patrol routes, shift changes. Damon slammed his fist against the glass in the observation room. Traitors. Did he ask about me? Aria asked. Jessica looked at her with genuine confusion. No, why would he? You were nobody. Aria stood up. Who was he, Jessica? I don't know his name, but... Jessica trembled. He had a tattoo on his wrist, a black sun with a serpent eating it. Aria went cold. She had seen that symbol before, in her father's old journals. She turned and walked out of the room. Damon met her in the hallway. The black sun, Damon said, his face pale. That's the symbol of the Obsidian Pack. The Obsidian Pack was wiped out 20 years ago, Aria said, in the Great War. Apparently not all of them, Damon said grimly. If they have spies inside my pack, we are in serious trouble. Just then, a commotion erupted at the front entrance of the pack house. The sound of heavy doors slamming and confused voices drifted down the corridor. Alpha! A guard ran toward them, breathless. You need to come upstairs. Now. Is it the king? Damon asked. No, sir. It's Alpha Lucas from the River Run pack, and he's not alone, Damon growled. Lucas was his rival, a charming, handsome alpha who had been trying to expand his territory for years. Aria and Damon hurried up the stairs to the grand foyer. Standing in the center of the hall was Alpha Lucas. He was lean, with sandy blonde hair and a smile that could stop traffic. Behind him stood 12 warriors in full tactical gear. Damon, old friend, Lucas called, out spreading his arms. I heard a rumor that the moon goddess dropped a miracle in your lap. I had to come see for myself. His eyes landed on Aria. His smile faltered, replaced by a look of predatory appreciation. He stepped forward, ignoring Damon, and bowed deeply to Aria. And you must be her, Lucas said, his voice like velvet. The White Wolf. The stories do not do you justice. Back off, Lucas. Damon stepped in front of Aria, a low growl rumbling in his chest. Lucas chuckled, straightening his tie. Relax, Damon. I'm not here to fight. I'm here to offer sanctuary. He looked at Aria over Damon's shoulder. My dear, surely you don't intend to stay with the man who treated you like a slave? The River Run pack is wealthy, modern, and we treat our women like goddesses. Come with me. Be my Luna. I will give you the world. Not just a mop and bucket. The insult landed perfectly. The pack members gathered in the hall murmured. Damon looked ready to shift and tear Lucas apart right there. She is my mate. Is she? Lucas raised an eyebrow. I don't see a mating mark on her neck. Until the bite is given and accepted, she is a free agent. And given your history, I'd say she's very free. All eyes turned to Aria. This was the test. Damon had hurt her, yes. But Lucas was a stranger, and the Obsidian Pack threat was looming in the shadows. Aria stepped out from behind Damon. She didn't look at Lucas's outstretched hand. She looked him in the eye. "I am not a prize to be won, Alpha Lucas," she said coolly. "And I am not a refugee. I am the Luna Suprema. If I leave this pack, it will be to build my own, not to warm your bed." Lucas's smile froze, then widened into something sharper. "Feisty, I like that. But you should know, the king isn't coming just to congratulate you, Aria. He's coming to claim you. If you don't choose a mate before he arrives, by ancient law, he can claim you for the royal harem." Aria's blood ran cold. "What? Didn't Damon tell you?" Lucas smirked, glancing at the stunned Alpha. "Oh, he probably forgot. A white Luna belongs to the crown, unless she is already mated. You have about 24 hours to pick a husband, sweetheart, or the king takes you away forever." Damon looked at Aria, panic in his eyes. I didn't know that law was still active." "It is," Lucas said, checking his watch. "Tick-tock, Aria. Choose wisely. The abuser, or the stranger, or perhaps the king?" The grandfather clock in the hallway chimed, the sound echoing like a death knell in the silent standoff between Alpha Damon, Alpha Lucas, and Aria. The revelation that the king could legally claim her as property hung in the air, a suffocating weight that made the very oxygen feel thin. 24 hours, Lucas repeated, his voice dripping with false sympathy. "Or, you can accept my mark right now, Aria. I'll protect you from the crown. I'm quite fond of defying authority." Aria looked from Lucas to Damon. Damon wasn't looking at Lucas anymore. He was looking at her. His eyes were wide, filled with a terrifying mixture of panic and heartbreak. He wasn't thinking about his reputation or his pack. He was thinking about losing her. "I won't let him take you," Damon vowed, his voice low and vibrating with the growl of his wolf. "I will burn this kingdom to the ground before I let Elias put a collar on you." "Brave words," Lucas scoffed, checking his cufflinks. "But King Elias travels with the royal guard. You have a dozen warriors in the room. I have 12. You can't win a war against the monarchy, Damon. Be realistic." Before Aria could respond, the lights in the grand hall flickered and died. Total darkness swallowed the room. For a split second, there was silence. Then, the sound of glass shattering erupted from every direction. The massive bay windows overlooking the front lawn exploded inward. "Ambush!" Mason roared from somewhere in the dark. Red flares hissed to life, tossed through the broken windows, casting the room in a hellish, crimson glow. Shadows poured in, men and women dressed in tactical gear, faces obscured by masks, depicting a black sun being swallowed by a serpent. The Obsidian Pack. "Defend the Luna!" Damon screamed, shifting mid-leap. His massive black wolf collided with 2 attackers, his jaws snapping bone with a sickening crunch. Chaos erupted. The air filled with the sounds of snarling wolves, the clash of steel, and the screams of the injured. Alpha Lucas didn't shift immediately. He pulled a silver-plated handgun from his jacket and fired 2 shots into an attacker charging at Aria, dropping him instantly. "It seems your security is lacking, Damon," Lucas yelled over the din, kicking another assailant away. Aria stood frozen for a heartbeat. She was unarmed. She was wearing a tracksuit. But as she watched a massive rogue wolf pin one of Damon's young guards to the ground, something inside her snapped. The heat that had been simmering in her chest since the trial exploded into a roaring inferno. "They dare attack my pack!" The voice of the white wolf was deafening. Aria didn't just shift. She erupted. One moment she was a woman. The next, the massive white wolf stood in the center of the hall. her fur glowing with an ethereal, blinding luminescence that cut through the red gloom of the flares. She was significantly larger than the rogue wolves, a titan among mortals. She threw her head back and let out a howl. It wasn't a signal, it was a weapon. The sound wave hit the attackers like a physical wall. The obsidian wolves faltered, whining and pawing at their ears as the sheer authority of the Luna Suprema crushed their will to fight. Aria lunged. She moved faster than the eye could follow, a white blur of vengeance. She didn't kill indiscriminately. She incapacitated. A swipe of her paw sent a rogue flying into a stone pillar. A snap of her jaws broke the leg of another. Damon's wolf, seeing his mate fight, fought with renewed ferocity. They moved in perfect synchronization, a dance of shadow and light. When a rogue aimed a silver-tipped crossbow at Aria's flank, Damon took the bolt in his shoulder, snarling as he ripped the throat out of the shooter. When 3 wolves surrounded Damon, Aria leaped over him, her massive weight crushing 2 of them instantly. For 10 minutes, the grand hall was a slaughterhouse. Then, as quickly as it began, it ended. The remaining obsidian soldiers, realizing they were fighting a deity, threw down their weapons and surrendered. Aria stood amidst the wreckage, her white chest heaving. Her fur was stained with blood, none of it hers. She looked at Damon. He was limping, the crossbow bolt still lodged in his shoulder, bleeding heavily. She shifted back. The change was fluid now. Naked and unashamed, she ran to him. "Damon!" She fell to her knees, her hands hovering over the bolt. "You took this for me." Damon shifted back, collapsing onto the debris-strewn floor. He groaned, clutching his shoulder. "I told you. I'd burn the kingdom, or take a bolt. Whatever works." "Don't joke," she choked out, tears mixing with the dust on her face. "Well, that was entertaining," Lucas drawled, stepping over a body. He had a cut on his cheek, but was otherwise unharmed. "But you have bigger problems, Aria." He pointed toward the shattered main doors. Through the smoke and the morning mist, a convoy of black SUVs was rolling up the long driveway. Flags fluttered from the lead vehicle, the golden moon crest of the royal family. The king had arrived. The courtyard was silent as King Elias Thorne stepped out of the armored limousine. He was a terrifying figure, tall, with skin like polished ebony and eyes of piercing gold. He wore a modern suit, but the heavy fur cloak draped over his shoulders whispered of ancient traditions. Behind him stood 50 members of the Royal Guard, the elite executioners of the werewolf world. Damon, supported by Mason, stood on the steps of the ruined pack house. Aria stood next to him, wearing a guard's oversized coat. Lucas stood to the side, watching with calculated interest. King Elias surveyed the carnage, the bodies of the obsidian assassins being dragged away, the shattered windows, the blood on the snow. His gaze landed on Aria. He didn't bow. He was a king. "So," Elias's voice was deep, resonating in everyone's chest. "The rumors are true. The White Wolf has returned." "Your Majesty," Damon gritted out, trying to bow despite his injury. "At ease, Alpha Hale," Elias said, waving a hand. He walked up the steps, stopping only a foot from Aria. The air crackled with power. "You have caused quite a stir, child. A trial, a transformation, and a massacre, all in 24 hours. "They attacked us," Aria said, her voice steady. She refused to cower. "I defended my home." "Your home?" Elias raised an eyebrow. "Is this your home? I was informed you were a servant here. A runt, I believe was the term." Damon flinched. "That was my mistake, Your Majesty. One I am correcting." "Are you?" Elias turned his golden eyes to Damon. "Because by the laws of our kind, an unclaimed white Luna is a danger to stability. Her power is too great to be left unchecked. If she is not mated, she belongs to the crown, to be sequestered in the royal sanctuary until a suitable match is found. I am not a thing to be sequestered, Aria snapped. The royal guard shifted, hands moving to their weapons. You did not speak to the king that way. Elias held up a hand to stop his guards. He smiled, a small, dangerous thing. You have spirit. Good. But the law is absolute. Are you mated, Aria Sullivan? Aria hesitated. She looked at Damon. He was pale, losing blood, but he was looking at her with that same intensity. Absolute devotion. No, Aria said softly. I am not. Then come with me, Elias said, extending a hand. You will live in the palace. You will be treated like a goddess, but you will not be free. Damon stepped forward, stumbling slightly. Take me instead. Elias laughed. You? I have no need for a broken alpha. I challenge the law, Damon said, his voice gaining strength. I invoke the right of sacrifice. If I give up my alpha title, if I give up my lands, will you let her choose her own path? The courtyard went deadly silent. An alpha giving up his title? It was unheard of. It was social suicide. Damon, no! Aria grabbed his arm. You worked your whole life for this pack. It means nothing without you, Damon said, looking into her eyes. I treated you like nothing, because I was afraid of losing my status. Now I'm throwing my status away to save you. It's the only way to balance the scales. He looked at the king. My title for her freedom. Take it. King Elias studied Damon for a long, agonizing minute. Then he looked at Aria. He loves you, the king observed dryly, and he is willing to become a rogue for you. That is rare. The king turned to the crowd. The Obsidian Pack has been a thorn in my side for a decade. Today, you destroyed their strike force. You proved that the White Luna does not need a keeper. She is a warrior. Elias stepped back. I did not come here to kidnap a woman. I came to see if the legend was worthy of the power. I see that she is. He looked at Lucas. And I see that the River Run Alpha is fishing in troubled waters. Lucas bowed nervously. Just offering assistance, Your Majesty. Leave, Elias commanded. Lucas didn't hesitate. He signaled his men and retreated to his vehicles. The king turned back to Aria and Damon. The law is interpreted by the king, and the king decrees that the White Luna has earned the right of self-determination. But, Elias pointed at Damon's bleeding shoulder, if you don't mate him soon, he's going to bleed out. The crossbow bolt was poisoned. Only a mate's healing bite can save him now. Aria gasped, looking at the wound. The black veins were spreading up Damon's neck. He hadn't said a word about the pain. Damon! She caught him, as his knees finally buckled. It's okay, Damon whispered, his eyes fluttering shut. You're free, Aria. You're free. You idiot, she sobbed, cradling his head. I don't want to be free if it means being without you. She looked at the king. How do I save him? Mark him, Elias said solemnly. Claim him. Share your immunity. Aria didn't hesitate. She wasn't scrubbing floors anymore. She wasn't the victim. She was the Luna. She pulled Damon's collar aside, exposing the junction of his neck and shoulder. Damon Hale, she whispered into his skin. I forgive you, and I claim you. She sank her teeth into the claiming spot. The energy that exploded from them was blinding. It wasn't just a spark, it was a supernova. The ground shook. The snow around them melted instantly into steam. Damon's eyes snapped open, glowing a brilliant, vibrant red. The black veins on his neck receded instantly, chased away by the influx of Aria's potent white magic. He sat up, grabbing Aria and pulling her into a fierce kiss. It was a kiss of possession, of apology, of infinite love. The pack, the king, and the guards watched in silence as the bond snapped into place, solid and unbreakable. When they finally broke apart, Aria was blushing, but her head was held high. She stood up, pulling Damon up with her. King Elias nodded, a look of satisfaction on his face. Alpha Damon. Luna Aria. I expect an invitation to the wedding. And Aria, try not to break too many bones when you restructure your pack, though from what I hear about Jessica Monroe, some bones deserve to be broken. With that, the king turned and walked back to his limousine. The Coldwater Pack house had been rebuilt. The glass was new, the stone scrubbed clean. But the biggest change wasn't in the architecture, it was in the atmosphere. The hierarchy of fear was gone. Aria had abolished the strict segregation of Omegas. Everyone ate in the same hall, everyone trained together. Aria stood on the balcony, watching the sunset. She felt a pair of strong arms wrap around her waist from behind. She leaned back into Damon's chest, humming contentedly. "Thinking about the past?" Damon asked, pressing a kiss to the mark on her neck, a mark that matched the one on his own. "No," Aria smiled, turning in his arms. "I was thinking about the future." "Is it a good future?" "It's a busy one," she teased. "The king wants us to host the Peace Summit next month. Lucas is still sending apology baskets trying to avoid sanctions. And..." She took Damon's hand and placed it on her stomach. Damon froze. His red eyes widened. "Aria, are you—" "The healer confirmed it this morning," she whispered. "A pup." Damon let out a shout of joy that startled a flock of birds from the nearby trees. He picked her up, spinning her around as she laughed, a sound that was light, free, and completely devoid of the shadows that had once haunted her. They had walked through fire, through judgment, and through blood. The runt and the bully were gone. In their place stood the king and queen of their own story, bound not just by fate, but by the choice to forgive and the courage to love. And as the sun dipped below the horizon, the white wolf inside Aria settled down to sleep, knowing that for the first time in her life, she was exactly where she belonged. And that, my friends, is the incredible story of Aria and the Coldwater Pack. From being the Wolfless Runt scrubbing floors to commanding the entire wolf kingdom as the White Luna, Aria proved that true power isn't about physical strength. It's about resilience, forgiveness, and the courage to stand up when the whole world is against you. She didn't just find her wolf, she found her voice. What did you think of Damon's redemption? Did he deserve Aria's forgiveness after everything he did, or should she have made him work harder for it? And what about that twist with the king? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I read every single one. If you enjoyed this story and want more dramatic werewolf romances, hard karma, and satisfying endings, please hit that like button, share this video with your fellow story lovers, and subscribe to the channel with the notification bell on so you never miss a new upload. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you in the next story.